Welcome to part 1 of my High Elf race guide. In this section we'll be covering the campaign strategy of the High Elves, including starting location and expansion options. Disclaimer, this guide is based on my personal experiences and opinions and is by no means a definitive way to play the High Elves in Mortal Empires. If you have a different strategy and want to add something to mine, please leave a comment down below. Now that's out of the way, let's get into the video. There are 4 factions you can choose to play as when using the High Elves, and we'll cover the differences the Lords brings in part 3, but there are also some differences not brought by the Lords. Starting location is obviously different for everyone. Lorthen starts at Lorthen, Order of the Lawmasters starts at the Volcanic Islands, Avaloran starts at Gainvale, and Nagarive start at Arnheim. Avaloran can build the World Route entrance, which allows recruitment of some Wood Elf units, as well as having the option to build the Handmaidens, Gallery and Size 3 settlements. Nagarive can build the Aesnar camp, which allows the recruitment of Shadow Walkers and Shadow Warriors, and Stalking replaces the default stance, allowing armies to move and ambush at the same time. For the sake of this guide I played as Lorthen, as they're the original High Elf faction in Warhammer 2. The High Elves are the most similar to the Empire from Warhammer 1. This is due to many factors, such as being surrounded by factions of the same race, and by default, the potential for massive amounts of trade. The economy you can build from trade alone is just insane, and if it wasn't good enough, High Elves receive bonuses from trading in the first place. Not only do they receive more money for every trade deal, but they also get sight into the trade partner's territory, which is useful no matter how you use it. Want to get a lay of the land before a later invasion? Vision. Just want to see threats coming your way through the buffer of your allies? Vision. Just want to reveal the map to decide where to go on your next holiday with the boys? Vision. That trade is just the start of the advantages due to being on an island filled with your own race. After a while of being best pals / trembling underlings, your buddies will be available to confederate, thus giving you more land, more money, and more room to craft elven trinkets. Expansion is an easy choice since half of Ulthuan is filled with High Elves and the other half is filled with Dark Elves. The only way to go is to build your relationships with your fellow High Elves whilst evicting any Dark Elf heretics and taking their lands for yourself. There's plenty of land to keep you expanding steadily over the course of the game, and once you've united the whole island, the Dark Elves in the northwest are an easy choice for the next venture. Though uniting the whole island is not as easy as you think. Quite like the Empire, most High Elf factions like to infight with each other, so becoming friends with all of them is quite a difficult process and can delay your unification until much later in the game. It took me over 120 turns to capture all of Ulthuan, and I was trying from the start. Speaking of the island, on it there are 4 settlements, which I'm just going to call the Gates of Wrath for simplicity's sake. These settlements give you no money, have no public order, and are the only settlements in their regions, and you may be wondering why capture them all. If you just refer to the garrisons, you'll quickly see why. Each size upgrade grants these babies some of the highest tier units in the game to defend impassable locations from invading armies. Not only that, but they can also have commandments enacted, which will give you all sorts of bonuses both locally and faction-wide. Speaking of which, commandments. The High Elves have access to 5. Reaver Patrols gives you plus 10% ambush chance and gives the enemy minus 15% hero action success chance and minus 10 move range for armies. Tribute to the Phoenix King gives you plus 4% income from trade faction-wide and plus 3% tax locally. Rebuild Lost Splendor grants minus 10% construction cost on all buildings and plus 20 growth locally. Rally Citizen Militia grants plus 1 recruit rank to all units and plus 1 to the local recruitment capacity. Finally, Banish Corruption grants plus 2 untainted in the region. They're all pretty self-explanatory when the best time to use them is, but my personal strat is rebuild Lost Splendor in regions that are not yet max size, then tribute to the Phoenix King once they are. This ensures max growth and money for your faction. When I'm recruiting, I switch over to Rally Citizen Militia, and if anyone decides to try and invade, I turn on Reaver Patrols. Banished Corruption is so self-explanatory, I'm not even going to go into it. Speaking of corruption, the High Elves are really quite good at combating it. They have the commandment I've already mentioned, and also a few buildings, and even skills for lords and heroes that can reduce the amount of corruption in an area. Granted, this won't be totally useful until the late game Chaos Invasion, but it's still pretty useful to have just in case any rats sneak into your lands. The missions for Lorthen are fairly balanced, I'd say. The mission to acquire Sun's Fang is quite easy once you get to the mid-game and gives you a great weapon for Tyrion as a reward, so it's definitely worth working towards as long as it doesn't interfere with any other plans you have. The mission to get the Dragon Armour of Anarion for Tyrion is a little more challenging and will require a mid to late game army to complete without too much trouble, but the rewards are definitely worth it and turn Tyrion into a real badass. Not only this, but you'll get more gold, XP and influence. I didn't play campaign for the other factions or else this guy would have taken 4 more months, so I didn't get to play their missions too much, but from what I can tell, Teclis has really tough missions for mediocre rewards, Alariel has a balanced one for a great reward, and Alith has a balanced one for a balanced reward. Influence is something unique to the High Elves, and it's as useful as it is annoying. You get it by completing missions, performing hero actions, and by making choices over the course of the campaign to pay tribute or suffer public order penalties every few turns. It can be spent on many things, including much better lords and heroes, manipulating diplomatic relations between different factions and your own, and on those same choices to improve your faction temporarily in many ways. This means that given you have enough lying around, you can basically become best friends with whoever you want, or just cause best friends to go to war, a la Mean Girls.
You can't stick with us!
Unfortunately, having a lack of influence means you'll have to pay out in money or public order every few turns, only to be able to recruit lords and heroes with shitty traits and make friends the old-fashioned way. Just because you can be friends with everyone though, it doesn't mean you have to. I mean, the game is called Total War, not Total Chilling at the Country Club with Malekith and Archon the Everchosen. The Dark Elves are, as previously mentioned, your main enemies, so be sure to get rid of any of them you see as soon as you can, as they're the only nearby threat that could actually give you much trouble in the long run. I found that the Dreadfleet kept trying to backdoor me when I was off expanding in the north, but once his army was done fighting my garrisons, all I had to do was sail over to the Galleon's graveyard and sweep up what remained. Something else to note about the High Elves in their campaign is the proximity to the Sword of Khaine, which is a crazily powerful weapon for a lord to have, but oh boy does it ever mess with your empire. Having the sword causes public order to fall across your entire faction, harm your diplomatic relations with everyone, and increase the upkeep of all your units. In return, it gives the user insane buffs to damage, defense and leadership, as well as great ability that can be used in battle to cause huge damage to units. Finally, the last thing we have to cover are the rites. First is the Invocation of Azurin, which costs 2000 gold, lasts 5 turns and has a 20 turn cooldown. It gives you +2 influence per turn, minus 15% construction cost on all buildings, and +4 public order faction wide. Next is the Invocation of Isha, which costs 4000 gold, lasts 10 turns and has a 40 turn cooldown. It grants immunity to attrition, +8% casualty replenishment rate, and +10 untainted, and again, all faction wide. The Invocation of Vol costs 1500 gold, lasts 10 turns and has a 30 turn cooldown. It gives you a choice between 4 randomly selected powerful items from the High Elf pool to increase your lord/army strength, as well as granting +5 armor and +2 recruit rank for Swordmasters of Hoeth, White Lines of Krace, Phoenix Guard, and Dragon Printers. Oh, I almost forgot, it gives you the Vault-Hammer ability to use during sieges, which targets units on walls with massive explosions which can destroy towers and walls and allow you to get inside. Finally, for Lorthen and Order of the Lawmasters, we have the Invocation of Hoeth, which grants 2000 gold, lasts 5 turns and has a 20 turn cooldown. It grants +50% XP and +200 XP per turn, +40% action success chance for mages and Lawmasters of Hoeth, and +30 to the Winds of Magic Reserve. Athaloran swapped this for the Invocation of Liliath, which costs 2000 gold, lasts 5 turns and has a 15 turn cooldown. It grants +2 recruit rank for Sisters of Athaloran, +20 armor for Dryads, and +3 recruit rank and -75 action cost for Handmaidens. Finally, Nagarive swapped this for the Invocation of Morai Heg, which costs 2500 gold, has a 15 turn cooldown, and it summons the Hand of the Shadow Crown, which is a unique hero that can assassinate any character without failing before vanishing and requiring a resummon. That concludes this section of the guide on campaign strategy. The next section will cover the unit roster, and how I believe each unit is best used, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to vote on the poll for the next race you want to make a guide for, which is linked in the description and the comments. Thanks for watching this section of the High Elf race guide. If you want to check out the other parts, there's a link in the card and in the description for a playlist to the series. If you enjoyed this video at any point, please consider leaving a like, as it really does help out a lot. And if you want to see more of this type of video, maybe click that subscribe button so you stay up to date. After all, it is free. I also felt I should mention my absence. If you want to know the reason, then head on over to my Discord and you'll see that, as well as any other announcements I have. If you ever want to get in touch with me for any reason, be it memes, advice, or hell, even a friendly chat, that's the best place to do it. For now though, I was COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I'll see you next turn.